It was a frustrating offensive performance for 7 innings against the worst team in baseball, but then the Mariners did their best Royals impersonation and rattled off 8 unanswered runs to beat the White Sox last night. We'll talk all about it coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, we're going to talk all about that awesome comeback win last night, also get you set for Game 2 between the M's and the White Sox. But before we do that, shout out to our title sponsor today, PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the promo code LockedOnMLB. That's all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description, and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. So there are a lot of places we could go to start this thing off with last night's game. We could, of course, talk about Logan Gilbert, which we'll do a little later on. We could obviously talk about that walk-off grand slam by Big Dumper, the absolute psychotic bunt by Luke Raley, which tied things up at 4-piece after the Mariners' big 4-run 8th inning to bring them back into this game. We could also talk about that big at-bat from Mitch Haniger, which kept things going in the 8th and set up that bunt by Raley. But Colby, I think you want to start somewhere else with this, right?
Sure. There's been a lot of misguided criticism of Scott's service the last few days, people trying to take shots at him for decisions that actually make sense while ignoring some of the decisions he made that were questionable. Like, it's been a really weird discourse for Scott, and a lot of people saying that he should be fired when the team is, in first place. But I think, the underrated play of last night's game is Scott keeping his catcher from being ejected by getting out there as fast as he did, because, obviously, he basically had to play rodeo clown there and distract the Bulls' attention as Cal is literally, probably milliseconds away from getting tossed in that game before Scott puts himself between the two. And he's the one who gets ejected. He's the one who diverts attention. He keeps his catcher in the game. And if memory serves, Cal Raleigh would play a pretty important role at the end of this game. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to give Scott a lot of criticism for stuff that honestly you don't really deserve to be criticized for. He doesn't deserve to be criticized for. Maybe you think he doesn't deserve credit for this, but hey, if you're mad at him for not, using Andres Munoz for a second inning when he's got a bad back in his first time pitching in 3 days, maybe don't talk about, maybe give him some credit for something that may be just as silly of a positive thing that Scott did. But maybe give him some credit for that. If you're going to criticize him for stupid stuff, give him some credit for stupid stuff that he does that actually works. How about we do that? Because Scott keeping Cal in that game turned out to be huge, because honestly, we don't even know Mitch Garver was available yesterday. So who takes that at bat in the ninth? Probably Seby Zavala. Give Scott a lot of credit. It was an underrated moment in the game. Obviously, a lot of really cool stuff happened before and well, mostly after that. But yeah, it was a really key moment in that game. And maybe there's nothing wrong with giving Scott a little bit of credit for something he does, since he pretty much gets blamed for everything that goes wrong.
And I mean, Cal gave the umpire one of these, and somehow, some way, he must have been distracted enough by Scott that he didn't see it, because that would have been an automatic, you're out of here.
Yeah, that's showing up the umpire.
Yeah,
which I don't think is a thing, but whatever. Umpires certainly do, and anything is showing up the umpire to them. But yeah, you got to give Scott credit for getting out there and keeping his guy in the game. Even though you're like, well, that's his job. It's like, okay, well, he did his job. So how about you give him credit for doing his job?
Right. So that was arguably moment of the game there. There were numerous moments of this game. Obviously the Dom Canzone home run to get things going against Eric Fetty after they really struggled. Yeah. After they really struggled against Fetty, and they finally got him out of there with that. And then, the Mitch Haniger at bat where, Julio strikes out. Cal strikes out, which, caused Scott to come out of the dugout there. You have 2 outs now, bases loaded. Seems like you're going to do the Mariners thing. You're going to blow it. You're going to have bases loaded, no outs, and you're not going to be able to put anyone across the plate. And Mitch goes down 0-2. He has a bad swing on the second pitch, calls time, kind of resets, gets a middle fastball. Probably should have done more with it. Probably should have put that ball in the gap or over the wall. But at the very least, gets enough of it and is able to loop that ball into right field to keep things going and ultimately set up that psychotic, I don't know how else to describe it, decision by Luke Raley to lay that bunt down on a 99-mile-per-hour fastball on the top inside corner of the zone, which is an insane pitch to just even make contact with, let alone be able to get enough of it to push it past the pitcher and in the perfect spot to be able to get to first and allow the run to score. And Dave Sims lost his mind, of course, because we know how much Simsy loves the bunt. That was probably the greatest RBI Simsy has ever seen in his entire life. If you heard the way he called that play, it was a great call, by the way. I know there's a lot of discourse on Twitter about Sims because he blew the grand slam call, whatever. We all know, you guys know how we feel about Dave Sims around these parts. And we know what his 80 grade fastball looks like, and we got a little glimpse of that on that call on the Raley bunt for sure. And that just set the stage for what was to come the next inning. Ryan Stanek, another shaky outing, another Fernando Rodney-esque outing where it is terrifying to watch, but somehow, some way, it works out in the end. Scoreless inning for Ryan Stanek.
Yeah, it was just utter chaos. When Fetty was in the game, it looked like they never got off the plane. Once Fetty left the game, it looked like they were playing the worst team in baseball. That's not because they rolled over or anything like that. It was just because you did what you were supposed to do. You hit home runs, you drew walks, you put the ball in play. You didn't strike out a ton last night. You put the ball in play. You forced them to make the plays to get you out, and they didn't make any errors, but you put enough pressure on them that you got to the weakness of this team, and there's a lot of them, to be fair, but you got to the weakness of this team, and you didn't give up. And after the 2 strikeouts with the bases loaded, Haniger's down 0-2, and the fastball just it absolutely beat him. Like, that's 99 down the middle, and he was way behind on it. Jammed him, but he did enough. He got it out there. He put the ball in play, right? He didn't strike out, put the ball in play. Good things happen. Raley follows it up, again, putting the ball in play very softly, very deliberately in this case, on a pitch he had no business getting down. 99 off the plate. That's not a pitch that's super easy to push past the pitcher. So then you go to the 9th inning, you look at it's how does it start? Ground out, but then walk, single, and let's Julio's at bat gets overlooked, rightfully so. It didn't end up mattering really all that much. But how about we go back and we look at the 8th inning, bases loaded, game not exactly on the line, but a real good chance to get back in the game. Julio and Cal, what do? They both strike out. 9th inning, they get a second chance. What do? They both get hits. And, Julio would have had the game-winning hit, but, he hit the ball so hard that JP had to freeze because he thought there was a chance the left fielder could make a play on it. And then Cal comes up and he hits the grand slam with just really great at-bat. Doesn't chase early, gets in a good hitter's count, bases loaded, 1 out. I'm up 2-0. This guy's already walked 2 in this inning. There is a 0% chance that he is throwing anything but a fastball. And it's going to be a strike. He has to throw a strike here. Yeah. And Cal knew it. He knew what he needed to do, and he got the pitch he was looking for, and he took advantage of it. And it's all set up by the patience, by the quality at-bats of the 3 guys in front of him. JP drawing the walk. Rojas taking a really close 3-2 pitch with an umpire who has no idea what a strike is. Yep. And he makes the decision, I'm taking that pitch. That's a ball. I'm going to trust my process. Gets called a ball, and he draws the walk. Julio, gets the big hit. And then obviously Cal, perfectly how you want to orchestrate that at bat. Don't chase early, get into a hitter's count, and understand that you are the guy who's in the driver's seat. You're the one who has almost no pressure on him. It's all on the pitcher to throw a strike in that situation. If he does, I'm going to ambush it. I'm not going to, let him get back in this count. And so all of that is set up by just quality at bat after quality at bat. 1 through 9 kind of, it's tough to pitch to a team that never lets you off the hook. Like you always have to make good pitches. They're not going to help you out. And last night, for the last 2 innings, that's exactly what the Mariners were. Be nice if they could do that for 9 innings. I mean, maybe they should try it out. that would be my recommendation. But just have good quality at bats. Understand what it is you need to do in this situation to keep the line moving. And when they do that, when they have these quality at bats, we know that they can score 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 runs a game, and they've done that, with a few exceptions, pretty much the entire month of June. So it's been a really fun offense to watch lately. But it starts with, guys just understanding the situation they're in, taking good at bats, understanding what they do well, and kind of adapting it at the plate. So it'd be great if you could do it for more than 2 innings. It'd be great if it didn't have to be the last 2 innings, but you put up 8 runs, in a game.
And a win is a win is a win is a win.
Sure, always. But, at the end of the day, if you score 8 runs in 2 innings, you still had a really good day because you scored 8 runs. Like, that's what it is at the end of the day. You had as many walks as you had strikeouts. You had the extra base hits, you had a double, you had 2 home runs. You ran the bases really well. You did all the little stuff, in the batter's box well late in that game, and you won. And looks like a blowout, 8-4, but you know how hard fought that was, and it's so critical to win game 1 of a 4-game set. And it's just a little bonus if you do it the way the Mariners did.
Yeah, I had to laugh after Julio's single there in the ninth. Him, busting Manny's chops, maybe also JP a little bit. He looks over at 30 and he takes his helmet off. He's like, "What the hell, guys? Come on!"
Like, that was my moment. I did that.
So we are going to talk some Logan Gilbert here in just a moment. But first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you, as I need to look up what the ad is real quick. Let's stall. It is brought to you by Ibotta and PrizePicks. Out with the old and in with the new, but don't splurge on anything new without getting cash back in return when you use Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, just add your offers in the app, upload your receipt, and get real cash that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Join over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and a whole lot more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the promo code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play Store or App Store and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. With PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and you're locked in. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. So get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the PrizePicks community today. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. You can catch Game 2 between the M's and the White Sox tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. So let's talk about Logan Gilbert last night. 6 2/3 innings pitched, 8 Ks, give up 3 runs, including the 2-run shot by Luis Robert. Wasn't necessarily a bad pitch. Robert just was able to turn on that thing and obliterated it into the upper deck. That ball was almost outside of the strike zone, dude.
No, what I'm saying is it wasn't almost out. It was in the strike zone, but
it was on the corner.
Right. It was a really bad process, though. We'll talk about it in a second.
Okay.
Or it was really bad execution, one or the other.
Okay. Elaborate.
Okay. Well, at this point, it's 0-0, right? You have 2 outs in the inning. You have first base open, and at the plate is the only guy
Oh,
in this
yeah.
lineup.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. So, like, it's a 2-2 count. We know that Robert will expand the zone. We know that he does strike out. It is part of his. So, why are you throwing him a fastball in that count? First of all, and second of all, why are you throwing it anywhere near the strike zone? That pitch, you should throw him a couple sliders, 6 inches outside, or you try and run like a cutter off the outside corner. This umpire is terrible. He might give you a call out there.
Hmm.
It was a really bad process. So either they were trying to go way above his hands, uh, or it was just, and that was the poor execution, is that he just left it kind of letter high, or it was just a bad idea to try and challenge him with first base wide open, and the next Gavin Sheets being the next guy up, a guy that you've handled all night and isn't that scary. Like, Robert's the one guy in this lineup that you can make a really good pitch to and he could still do damage on it.
Right.
So don't give him that option. Walk him. He's not going anywhere. You much rather go after Gavin Sheets. So to me, that's bad process or bad execution. Like, the pitch didn't go where he wanted it to go. So like, the pitch itself, not terrible, difficult pitch to hit and keep fair, sure. But just the process of throwing that pitch to that hitter in that situation, that's a bad idea. So I don't think it was a bad pitch necessarily, but it wasn't well thought out or well executed. I'm not sure which one, but it was one of those.
Sure. What did you think of Gilbert's night overall?
Oh, he was really good. It's kind of funny. It kind of reminds me a little bit of his start against Kansas City a few weeks back, where he was cruising through 6 and then gets into a little bit of trouble, gets ahead on a 2-strike count on Velasquez. And in that case, he hung a slider. It wasn't, a really good pitch. It was a bad pitch, and it was probably the only one he made on the night. And it just threw off his entire stat line. It made it look a lot worse than he was. But Gilbert last night was really good. He had 20 whiffs. Like, that's always a nice, good number. And it was a really interesting night. He threw the cutter a ton last night. It was his primary pitch. He threw 95 pitches. 30 of them were cutters and 24 of them were sliders. So a lot of pitches, a lot of cut pitches away from all those righties. And it worked. It worked really well. He had a 37% whiff rate on the cutter. He had a 40% whiff rate on the slider. He also got plenty of called strikes on those 2 pitches. And then the fastball was actually his 3rd pitch last night. He threw 20 of those. He only got 1 whiff, but he did get 7 called strikes on that pitch. So that is it ends up being a 40% called strike plus whiff on the fastball, which is pretty good. And then even the split was also, the split and the curveball. He threw everything last night. He only threw 12 splits and only 9 curveballs, but he had a 67% whiff rate on the splitter and the curveball. So he was really good. He was getting a ton of swings and misses. It was just kind of a different Logan Gilbert because it was very cutter slider heavy. And we know that while Gilbert certainly is more of a mix it up type of guy this year, it's still traditionally fastball slider. Last night is the first night I remember him going really heavy to the cutter. And it was a really good pitch for him. So velocity was up, spin rate was up, except for on the splitter, which is what you want. You want the spin rate to be down on that. Threw an absolutely filthy one that was featured on Pitching Ninja. I think it had a 537 or whatever spin rate. Insane stuff from Logan. Again, just made the bad process on the pitch to Robert, and then obviously the next run, a couple doubles, or a double and a single. Like, okay, even the really great pitchers, you're going to give up 1 or 2 runs. Like, the other team's still full of professional hitters, so you can still make decent pitches and give up runs. So, overall, I thought he was better than his box score even indicated. But yeah, it was a really kind of interesting night for him because he featured the cutter so heavily, which I think is the first time he's done that. Where like, we've certainly seen him mixing the cutter a little more and more, but last night it was his go-to pitch, and it was cutter slider, which is not a combination that we've seen from Logan before in terms of carrying his arsenal on a single night.
And his next start, it's a big one, against the Texas Rangers this weekend, so looking forward to that. However, now we are going to talk about Game 2 against the White Sox. Bryan Woo on the bump for the M's tonight. Go over that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKDON, and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Before we get back into the show, I want to tell you about an upcoming event this Sunday at T-Mobile Park to support a great cause. The Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence is partnering with the Mariners for the 28th year to host a Refuse to Abuse Game Day, raising awareness around efforts to prevent domestic violence and promote healthy, respectful relationships. Purchase a ticket to join 1,000 Mariners fans in the Special Reserve Game Day section this Sunday against the Rangers. Tickets cost $35, with $18 of that going to the Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And not only do you get to watch the game, you also get a Mariners themed Refuse to Abuse dry fit t-shirt. For more information and the link to purchase your tickets on the Mariners website, please check out the description of this episode. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Once again, you can catch Game 2 between the M's and the White Sox tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners, and that's what we're talking about now here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Bryan Woo on the bump tonight against his former Cal Poly teammate Drew Thorpe, who's making his major league debut. Of course, Thorpe started the offseason in the New York Yankees organization. He was traded in the Juan Soto deal and then was traded in the Dylan Cease deal from Padres to the White Sox. What do you think about Thorpe first? Let's get into him real quick.
Yeah, interesting dude, 23 years old. Like you said, was a big part of 2 high-profile trades in the same winter. So obviously there is some, real talent here as well. Fangraphs had him ranked 74th in baseball in the preseason poll. It is a fantastic changeup. The changeup is his go-to pitch here. He's going to throw a lot of strikes as well. So he's going to go right after you. He's going to throw it's a fastball changeup mix primarily. Fastball, not that great. It's really not going to blow you away, but he pairs it so well with that changeup. He's also got pretty good cutter and slider as well. So it is more command and feel than it is raw stuff, but it is an elite changeup. And, tonight might be a good night to stack a bunch of righties in your lineup because, you try and neutralize the changeup's effects. And we know that Cal Raleigh, for example, traditionally struggles against the changeup, and we know that Luke Raley can struggle against the changeup. So I do feel like Thorpe is hittable in his debut. He is not like an elite prospect, but he is a very good one. And I don't know, I feel like typically pitching prospects have the edge in their first career starts because it takes a couple at bats for you to kind of see what they have going on. So he's been, really solid down in AA. He skipped AAA entirely. But, he also only has, he has a total of 90 innings above A-ball in his entire career. So fast track guy, again, command and feel, not going to blow the fastball by you, but an elite changeup, pretty good cutter. He's actually going to be pretty challenging for the lefties in the lineup tonight. So this might be a night where maybe the Mariners stack a couple righties, but obviously JP is going to play tonight. And it's, without Dylan Moore there, it's pretty hard to imagine that, Rojas isn't going to also be in the lineup, but we'll see if Cal, maybe this is a good day to get Cal a day off and, ask Garver to catch or ask, maybe finally give Sebi a day behind the plate. God forbid.
Does he still exist? Is he still alive?
Apparently not.
Is he doing okay? Like, has anyone checked in on Sebi Zavala?
Not the Mariners. So, yeah, he's going to throw a lot of strikes. He's going to be around the plate. He's going to have a great changeup. So, you got to be patient here. He's going to try and get you to chase once he gets ahead. So, it's one of those fine lines where you need to be patient. You need to not expand the zone and help him out, so that his, mediocre fastball can play up a little bit. But you also can't just sit there and expect to get into a lot of 2-0, 3-1 counts. He's going to pound the strike zone early. So, we could see a George Kirby-like attack plan for the Mariners where it's like, this guy's going to throw a lot of strikes. We're going to go up there. We're going to hunt the first pitch fastball and we're going to swing. And, if he gets through 7 innings on 75 pitches, like, so be it. We're going to go out there and we're going to try and do this. Or, maybe you just wait and you feel him out, you kind of try and, see how he wants to attack you. So I do think that, first time pitchers, they do have the advantage, in at least for the first couple of innings, as guys kind of get used to seeing him live and seeing what type of pitches he has. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, he's a good prospect. He's not great. He's not elite. He's not, a number one starter or anything like that, but he's a good, solid prospect. And there's a chance he can, he can give the White Sox a really good outing here in his major league debut.
So then on the flip side, Bryan Woo making his, seventh start of the seaon.
The opposite.
He's posted the lowest ERA of any Mariners pitcher in their first 6 starts of a season so far. And obviously going up against a pretty weak lineup, outside of really just Luis Robert.
It is the exact opposite of Drew Thorpe. Elite fastball.
Right.
Not much else. Thorpe has a terrible fastball. So yeah, we know what Bryan Woo's going to do. He's going to throw a ton of fastballs. There'll be 4-seam and 2-seam, and they'll be pretty evenly split. But if he throws 80 pitches tonight, I imagine at least 60 are going to be fastballs. So that's the other thing too, is we don't know what kind of leash he has. He did go 85 pitches. It was the first time he's even come close to that really since his return. But he did also have the extra day's rest, which he doesn't have this time around. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage Woo's workload tonight. Now, because Bryan Woo essentially throws 2 pitches and they're both fastballs, we know that he can get pretty deep into games on low pitch counts. So, as is always the case with Woo, because he doesn't really have the secondary stuff quite yet, or at least he hasn't shown it consistently enough, it's really going to be all about his location, his command, right? Is he on the corners? Does he work up with the 4-seamer? Does he work down with the 2-seamer? That's what it comes down to for Bryan Woo, and it's going to be that way forever. It's a very easy scouting report. You're going to get 95 to 97. It's either going to be riding up in the zone or it's going to be tailing in or away, depending on what your orientation is as a batter. So, good luck. You're going to get a fastball. If you think you're not going to get a fastball, you're going to get a fastball. And if it's in the middle of the plate, start early because it's deceptively fast, even though it's 95, 96 miles an hour. If it's not in the middle of the plate, you're probably going to make an out if you swing at it. So good luck. Hope he's in the middle of the plate and hope that you guess the correct fastball that you're going to get. Because again, it's a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer, and both of those pitches are at least 70 grade, I would say. With, if he has 65 or 60 command of them, then they're 80 grade fastballs. So yeah, it's funny. Former teammates, they played at the same college. They played on the same summer league team in college, and kind of the opposite approach. They both throw a ton of strikes. Like, they're not going to walk guys, but one does it with an elite changeup. The other one does it with an elite fastball. So it'll be a fun matchup tonight. I anticipate a low scoring game.
All right. That is going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.